You're listening to Al Pastor, the show that helps you love God, love your neighbor, and eat more tacos. I'm your host, Pastor Brian. Welcome to the show. Well, hello. I want to welcome you to today's episode. We are going to do a very, and when I say very, I mean very brief overview of 2 Peter. And I have with me in the podcast studio one of my favorite hosts by the name of Noah. Noah, why don't you say hi to everybody?
Hello, everybody.
Welcome back, sir. It is
Thank you.
really good to have you back in the studio. So how are things going?
Things are doing pretty good. What about you?
Things are going good. I just had a little bit of coffee, so that makes me happy. Coffee makes me happy.
Your grown-up juice.
Yes. So my grown-up juice. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over the book of 2 Peter. Why is it important that, first of all, Noah, that we go over a book before we start reading it?
It is important to go over a book before we actually read it because we'll have some background information while we're reading to help us better understand.
Okay. Now there's one word that describes kind of what you just said. Do you know what that word is?
No.
Okay. The word is called context. So we want to make sure we always have the context. So that's all those little details, okay, about the book, like that we're going to go over. So for those of you at home, what the goal is you are just kind of listening in. You're tuning into a conversation with Noah and I. We've not gone over any of this. In fact, Noah, I signed you. I said, here's what we're going to do. Here's what you need to watch. And what was it that you needed to watch?
I needed to watch the Bible Project video for 2 Peter.
Perfect. Okay. And you've done that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to talk about it. Why don't you go ahead and share with me maybe some of your takeaways? What did you get out of it?
Okay, some takeaways that I had was, first of all, this reminds me of 2 Timothy because Paul is going to be killed soon, and so is Peter. So they're both going to be killed soon.
Yes.
And what makes me wonder is, since they're both in Rome when they wrote these letters, if they could have met with each other during this time period, since they both were in Rome during the time.
That is possible. So one thing that we have to keep in mind, there was a couple of different types of imprisonment in Rome. One of them would have been called house arrest. And in this case, that is for a crime that isn't as severe. So essentially they would say, all right, sort of like you're grounded, go to your room. But the difference is you had to have your own house and you had to pay for your way. You're on your own for everything. It's not like they feed you, clothe you, none of that stuff. But you were under house arrest, and then they supplied the guards. Now, Paul's first imprisonment, the first time when he was in Rome, he was under what's called house arrest.
Okay.
Now, this imprisonment is different. Seems to be much more serious, and the conditions were not so well. So he was actually in a Roman jail cell, which would have been under the city. The conditions, to say it nicely, were not good. It would be like a room that looks like a cave, like cement, sewer.
Dungeon?
Like a dungeon. There would be rats. It would be cold. He would be chained. There would be guards there with him. So this was not a good situation that Paul was in. Now, I know we're talking about Peter. Now, with Peter, we don't know. There's some things we can study about. We won't get into all of it right now. But that question that you have is very, very interesting. Could they have saw each other? Answer is yes, they could have, right? Probably more so than that. There's ways, just like anywhere, you can send messages to and from each other. But they're in there around the same time. So we see a parallel between 2 Timothy and 2 Peter, because you said it, both of them are what?
In Rome.
In Rome, and what else?
Imprisonment.
Well, yes, and then what else? They both have a feeling that something's about to happen.
They're both going to be killed very soon.
Exactly. So this helps set up for us in our minds and in our hearts I know it's not something we want to think about, but imagine you had to write a final letter. Do you think you would say some things that were really, really important?
Well, if it's gonna be my last word, why wouldn't I?
Exactly. So all, and here's the thing: all of the Bible is equal. What we call inspired. There. One thing I want you to know, Noah, is sometimes people have the wrong idea. Like in our Bibles, it has sometimes they have the words of Jesus written in red. They call it red letter. That doesn't make it any more important than any other writing in the Bible. So again, this is the last things that Peter's going to write. So what else? Do you have anything else from the Bible Project?
Also, well, it's like Peter, the people in Rome and people in other places weren't believing the apostles that Jesus is gonna that they saw Jesus and that he's gonna be coming back soon.
Exactly. So there was some false teaching that was going around. Now, who was this letter written to? Do you know that?
No.
Okay. So he wrote to Asia Minor. So that was in the video, in the Bible Project video. So here's my question to you, and it's okay if you don't know. Could you show me, or do you have an idea what that means if we say Asia Minor?
No.
Okay, and that's fine. Here's something for you. I believe this is age appropriate and really for anybody. If you hear this term Asia Minor, you need to have an understanding on a map geographically. Where is this and what churches would it cover? So that's going to be part of your like investigative assignment. Okay, you need to become familiar with Asia Minor, and then you also need to know how far is Rome from Asia Minor, and then you kind of need to put some thought into how would correspondence go. Like, you know, if you were sending a letter from Rome, how long would it take to get to, I don't know, let's say Ephesus, let's say Jerusalem. Those little details help you add more context, okay? So that's going to be, again, on your investigative journey. Anything else from the Bible Project video?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So you picked up on one of the key terms. You said he was writing to combat what, or come against what?
To about how Jesus is coming back.
Okay, yeah, that's one of the themes, that Jesus is coming back. Why would he stress that?
Because it's important for people to know that one day he'll be coming back.
Exactly.
As a lion, not as a lamb.
Okay, you added that in there. You're getting a little spicy. You're getting a little preachy there. Watch out. I might have to give you an air horn in a minute. You want to say it again? He's going to come back as what?
A lion, not the lamb.
Woo! Look at that. You're going to start preaching. He's coming back as a lion, not as the lamb. So yes, that is important, because there was people going around spreading a false gospel. False, like meaning
false teaching.
False teaching. The word for it is called heresy. They were even taking the words of Paul himself, of the Apostle Paul, right? Some of the writings, and they were saying, see, look what let us tell you what Paul meant. No, we don't do that. So they were twisting his words and saying, Jesus isn't coming back. He already came back. The resurrection's already passed. Not only that, they were taking advantage of the people. They were doing so through their money, taking advantage of people's finances. There was some things going on relationally as well between them. So we're going to see some heavy things that Peter's going to deal with. All right, do you have any other questions for the book of 2 Peter, or anything else you want to cover?
No, I don't have any questions, and I think I'm good.
Okay. So for those of you at home, hopefully you have done the same. Whether you've kind of listened, you have a general idea of 2 Peter. Hopefully you've watched the Bible Project video, or perhaps you have read an introduction in your study Bible. You know what? The last question I'm going to ask you, Noah, do you know when, the date that this was written?
No.
Okay. So we're thinking that this was written in what's called the mid-60s. Does that mean anything to you? First question.
When you say 60s, I'm thinking about the 60s that happened when around your time.
No. I was not born in the 60s, man. I was not. I was born in 79. That's when I was born, all right? So that is blasphemy. I'm not a child of the 60s. Okay, so here's going to be the other thing. So I've got two things for you. Number one, you need to know what? Asia Minor. Number two, you need to have a grasp of the timeline. So there's a great tool in your Logos where you will go and investigate the time. So when I say mid-60s, I'm talking about the first century. So literally, not 1960, but the actual year, mid-60s would be 65. Not at 1965, the actual year 65. Jesus was crucified, we believe, around the year 33.
Wow.
In the 33rd year. So in the year 65 is when Peter was written, most likely, and when he was killed. Here's my other question. Do you know how Peter was killed? And do you know who killed Peter?
Nero?
Okay, very good. Do you know anything about Nero?
He was an emperor in Rome.
Yes. Now, Nero was a bad man. When I say bad, like evil, antichrist.
Worse than Caesar?
Well, he is a Caesar. A Caesar means like ruler, king, okay? So he was a Caesar. But Nero is what a biblical, we would call a type. He's a type of the Antichrist. Super bad. So you don't need to know all the facts about Nero. Like you don't need to know when he was born, when he lived. You do need to know, like, how long did Nero rule? And you can get that really simple out of the fact book. So here's our three takeaways. Three things for you. Asia Minor, have a grasp of when Peter wrote this. And then third, Emperor Nero. Just a little bit. I want you to know some stuff about him, okay?
Wasn't he mentioned in The Chosen on one of the episodes with the Zealots? Or was that a different one?
That would be a different Caesar. That would probably have, no, it was not Caesar Nero, okay? So that would have been a different Caesar. So once it's sort of like a president. Mm-hmm. So when Jesus was walking the earth, it was around the year 30, we believe, when he started his ministry. So again, that timeline's going to help you out. Okay, and here's the fourth one. Do you know how Peter died?
No.
Okay. Now, this is not in the Bible. Okay, so full disclaimer. Church tradition, that means you take it for what it's worth. We hold this loosely. Okay. Says that they went to crucify Peter. And Peter said, I am not worthy to be put to death like my Lord Jesus Christ. And so you know what they did?
Stoned him?
They crucified him upside down.
So he was put on the cross upside down?
Correct.
I had to remember you talking about this in the past, but like you saying that made me remember you saying this in a sermon or something.
Yeah, probably. Do you know how Paul died?
How?
He had his head chopped off.
Well, like John the Baptist?
Yes. Do you know why he had to have his head chopped off?
Why?
It was illegal to crucify a Roman citizen, and Paul was a citizen of Rome. So even though Paul was a Jew, he
was also a citizen of Rome.
Correct.
So that was kind of their loophole.
Exactly. They still put him to death, but it was the Romans consider crucifixion like one of the most crazy ways to die. It was what we would call, the word is scandalous. Like, oh, it doesn't get any worse than that. So,
the last resort.
No, not necessarily the last resort. It was just reserved for what they considered the low of the low. So if you were a Roman, it's like, I'm from Rome. Everybody else was subhuman in their eyes. So, all right. Anything else on 2 Peter?
No.
All right. Well, we won't get into anything else. There's other things about, as you get a little bit older, I want you to know and hear it from me first. There are questions on authorship on the book of 2 Peter, but this isn't anything that is like what we would say super, super critical. The reason people question, did Peter really write this, is because the way he writes from 1 Peter and 2 Peter is a little bit different, but that doesn't mean a whole lot. The answer is actually simple. Most people didn't write. One of their scribes or disciple would write for them. It would be an honor to write what your master was telling you, whatever your teacher was telling you. So very well could be that there was a different scribe. But anyways, we won't get into that. But I think we'll wrap it up with this. For those of you listening at home, looking forward to Bible study. Bible study will be from this Wednesday from 6 to about 7:30 or so. And I hope you'll come with, we're going to cover a little bit of 2 Peter, also 2 Timothy as well. So we'll hope to see you then, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you for listening to Al Pastor with Brian Overturf. If you found value in this, please subscribe and get updates. Most places podcasts are available. We're right here on Anchor FM through Spotify, also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon, and iHeartRadio. I hope you'll tune in for the next episode. Until then, we'll see you later.